installment of the ASMR reading of the Epic of Gilgamesh, as translated by David Ferry. Well, translated and arranged, I guess, is the proper word. In this installment, I will be reading the first 4 tablets. Yeah. So, let's get started. Another thing, you may be hearing a whirring in the background if your headphones are turned up, and that is because I am using my laptop's internal microphone, because unfortunately at the moment I can't really use anything else. So unfortunately, it's all I've got at the moment, but you make do with what you have, right? Anyways, let's begin. Tablet 1. The story of him who knew the most of all men know, who made the journey, heartbroken, reconciled, who knew the way things were before the flood, the secret things, the mystery, who went to the end of the earth and over, who returned and wrote the story on a tablet of stone. He built Uruk. He built the keeping place of Anu and Ishtar. The outer wall shines in the sun like the brightest copper. The inner wall is beyond the imagining of kings. Study the brickwork. Study the fortification. Climb the great ancient staircase to the terrace. Study how it is made. From the terrace, see the planted and fallow fields, the ponds and orchards. This is Uruk, the city of Gilgamesh, the wild ox, son of Lugalbanda, son of the Lady Wild Cow Ninsun, Gilgamesh, the vanguard and the rear guard of the army, shadow of darkness over the enemy field, the web, the flood that rises to wash away the walls of alien cities, Gilgamesh, the strongest one of all, the perfect, the terror. It is he who opened passes through the mountains, and he who dug deep wells on the mountainsides, who measured the world, and sought out Utnapishtim beyond the world. It is he who restored the shrines, 2/3 a god, 1/3 a man, the king. Go to the temple of Anu and Ishtar. Open the copper chest with the iron locks. The tablet of lapis lazuli tells the story. There was no withstanding the aura or power of the wild ox Gilgamesh. Neither the father's son, nor the wife of the noble, neither the mother's daughter, nor the warrior's bride was safe. The old men said, "Is this the shepherd of the people? Is this the wise shepherd, protector of the people?" The gods of heaven listened to their complaint. Aruru is the maker of this king. Neither the father's son, nor the wife of the noble is safe in Uruk. Neither the mother's daughter, nor the warrior's bride is safe. The old men say, "Is this the shepherd of the people? Is this the wise shepherd, protector of the people?" There is no withstanding the desire of the wild ox. They called the goddess Aruru, saying to her, "You made this man, now create another. Create his double and let the two contend. Let stormy heart contend with stormy heart, that peace may come to Uruk once again." Aruru listened and heard, and then created out of earth clay and divine spittle the double, the stormy-hearted other, Enkidu, the hairy-bodied wild man of the grasslands, powerful as Ninurta, the god of war. The hair of his head like the grain fields of the goddess, naked as Sumuquan, the god of cattle. He feeds upon the grasslands with gazelles, visits the watering places with the creatures whose hearts delight as his delights in water. One day, a hunter came to a watering place and saw Enkidu. He stood expressionless, astonished. Then with his silent dogs he went home to his father's house, fear in his belly. His face was as one estranged from what he knows. He opened his mouth and said to his father, "Father, I saw a hairy-bodied man today at the watering place. Powerful as Ninurta, the god of war, he feeds upon the grasslands with gazelles. He visits the watering places with the beasts. He has unset my traps and filled my hunting pits. The creatures of the grasslands get away free. The wild man sets them free. Because of him, I am no longer a hunter." His father said, "Go to Uruk and there present yourself to Gilgamesh the king, who is the strongest of all, the perfect, the terror, the wise shepherd protector of the people. Tell him about the power of the wild man. Ask him to send a harlot back with you, a temple prostitute, to conquer him with her greater power. When he visits the watering place, let her show him her breasts, her beauty for his wonder. He will lie with her in pleasure, and then the creatures, the gazelles with whom he feeds upon the grasslands, and the others with whom he visits the watering places, will flee from him who ranged the hills with them." So the hunter went to Gilgamesh in Uruk and told him about the power of the wild man and how he had unset the traps and filled the pits so that the creatures got away free. The Lord of Uruk said to the hunter then, "When you return, a temple prostitute will go with you and with her beauty conquer the wild man. He will lie with her, and then the gazelles with whom he feeds upon the grasslands, and the others with whom he visits the watering places, will flee from him who ranged the hills with them." Sorry, had to catch my breath. The harlot and the hunter traveled together, taking 3 days back to the watering place. For 3 more days they waited and finally Enkidu came with the creatures that loved the water, the gazelles and the others, so as to drink their fill. The temple prostitute looked at him, Enkidu, the hairy-bodied wild man of the grasslands, the hair of his head like the grain fields of the goddess, naked as Sumukwan, the god of cattle. "That is Enkidu Shamhat. Show him your breasts, show him your beauty. Spread out your cloak on the ground, lie down on it. The wild man will look at you. Show him your body. The hairy-bodied man will come to you and lie down on you, and then show him the things a woman knows how to do. The gazelles and with them all the other creatures will flee from him who ranged the hills with them." And so the harlot Shamhat showed him her breasts, showed him her body. The hairy-bodied man came over to her and lay down on her, and then she showed him the things a woman knows how to do. For 7 days Enkidu in his wonder lay with her in pleasure, and then at last went to seek out the company of the creatures whose hearts delight in feeding upon the grasslands, and visiting the watering places and ranging the hills. But seeing him they fled. The creatures were gone, and everything was changed. His body that loved to range the hills was now unable to follow, but in the mind of the wild man there was beginning a new understanding. Bewildered, he turned and sought out the company of the temple prostitute. He sat down beside her and looked into her face and listened to her. "Enkidu, now you are beautiful as a god. Why do you seek the company of beasts? Come with me to the city, to Uruk, to the temple of Anu and the goddess Ishtar. Gilgamesh is the ruler, the strongest of all, the terror. The aura and the power of his desire can be withstood by no one." Then Enkidu, whose heart was beginning to know about itself and longed for a companion, cried aloud, "Take me me to Uruk, the city of Gilgamesh, whose aura and power cannot be withstood. I will cry out in Uruk, challenging him. It is I, Enkidu. The strength of the wild man born in the wilderness cannot be withstood. The temple prostitute replied, Come then to Uruk, where the processions are and music, and let us go together through the dancing to the palace hall, where Gilgamesh presides, the favorite of the gods, the beautiful, strongest of all, the terror, the most desired. Look at his radiant face, the favorite of Shamash and Enlil, Ea and Anu. While you were grazing beast-like with gazelles, before your mind had any understanding, his mind, a gift to the gifted of the gods, had a dream of you before you knew of him. In the early morning, Gilgamesh arose and told his mother his dream. I had a dream. A star fell from the heavens, a meteorite, and lay on the empty plain outside Uruk. The men and women came and wondered at it. I strove to lift it, but could not. I was drawn to it as if it was a woman. All-knowing Rimat Ninsun spoke to him, the lord of Uruk, Gilgamesh. His mother, all-knowing Rimat Ninsun, spoke and said, The star that fell from the heavens, the meteorite that lay on the empty plain outside Uruk, the star you could not lift when you strove with it, the star you were drawn to as if drawn to a woman, is the strong companion, powerful as a star, the meteorite of the heavens, a gift of the gods. That you were drawn to it as if drawn to a woman means that this companion will not forsake you. He will protect and guard you with his life. This is the fortunate meaning of your dream. Then Gilgamesh, the lord of Uruk, said, May the dream as you interpret come to pass. The temple prostitute thus told the tale. Tablets 2 and 3. Shamat took off her robe and divided it so that the wild man could also be clothed. When this was done and both of them were clothed, she took him by the hand as a goddess might, leading a worshipper into the temple precinct. As if he was a child, she held his hand, and they began their journey. They came to a camp where shepherds lived, who gathered about and wondered at the huge size and strength of Enkidu, the hairy-bodied wild man of the grasslands. They said to each other, He is like Gilgamesh, twice the size of ordinary men, stronger and taller than a battlement. He is like a star that has fallen from the heavens. They cooked food and set it down before him. They brought out beer they had brewed and set it down. But Enkidu knew nothing about these things, so he sat and stared at the cooked food and the beer for a very long time, not knowing what to do. Then Shamat, the harlot, the temple prostitute, said, Enkidu, this is the food and drink. Men eat and drink. Eat and drink your fill. So Enkidu ate his fill of the cooked food and drank the beer. 7 jugs of the beer, and he was suddenly joyful and sang aloud. Then he washed his hairy body, anointed himself with oil, and dressed his body in new clothes, so that he looked as beautiful as a bridegroom. He took up a weapon to guard the flocks and shepherds against the wolves and lions that preyed upon them. Therefore, at night, with Enkidu to guard them, the shepherds could lie down in peaceful sleep. One day, a stranger came into the camp, bearing a richly decorated platter. Enkidu asked Shamat to question him. Where are you going? Where are you hurrying to? The young man opened his mouth and said to them, I am going to the wedding feast in Uruk, bearing delicious offerings on the platter, ceremonial offerings for the feast. Before the husband, Gilgamesh will lie in pleasure with the bride. is no withstanding the aura or power of the desire of the wild ox Gilgamesh, the strongest of all. Then Enkidu was full of anger and said, "Take me to Uruk, the city of Gilgamesh, whose aura and power cannot be withstood. I will cry out in Uruk, challenging him. It is I, Enkidu. The strength of the wild man cannot be withstood. Born in the wilderness cannot be withstood." So they set out for the wedding feast in Uruk. Enkidu entered Uruk. Then amazement crowded the streets at the sight of the size of him, the strength and beauty, the likeness to Gilgamesh. One has appeared worthy of Gilgamesh. Stormy heart, to struggle with stormy heart. The wedding feast of the goddess of love is ready. Enkidu stood, guardian on the threshold of the marital chamber, to block the way of the king, the aura and power of the wild ox Gilgamesh, who was coming to the chamber to take the bride. Stormy Heart struggled with Stormy Heart as Gilgamesh met Enkidu in his rage. At the marital threshold they wrestled, bulls contending. The doorposts shook and shattered, the wrestling staggered. Wild bulls locked, horned, and staggered, wrestling through the city streets. The city walls and lintels shuddered and swayed. The gates of the city trembled as Gilgamesh, the strongest of all, the terror, wrestled the wild man Enkidu to his knees, and then the rage of Gilgamesh subsided. He turned his chest away. Enkidu said, You are the strongest of all, the perfect, the terror. The lady wild cow Ninsun bore no other, and Lil has made you sovereign over the city." Then Enkidu and Gilgamesh embraced and kissed, and took each other by the hand. Enkidu listened as Ramat Ninsun spoke to Gilgamesh her son. "Enkidu has neither father nor mother. There is no one to cut the wild man's hair. He was born on the grasslands and grazed with gazelles and the other beasts on the grass of the grasslands. Enkidu the companion will not forsake you." Enkidu listened and wept and felt his weakness. Then Enkidu and Gilgamesh embraced and kissed and took each other by the hand. Enkidu spoke these words to Gilgamesh. "Huwawa's mouth is fire, his roar the flood water, his breath is death." And Lil made him the guardian of the cedar forest, to frighten off the mortal who would venture there. But who would venture there? Huwawa's mouth is fire, his roar is the flood water. He breathes and there is death. He hears the slightest sound somewhere in the forest. And Lil made him terrifying guardian, whose mouth is fire, whose roar the flood water. Helpless is he who enters the cedar forest. But Gilgamesh replied, "Who is the mortal able to enter heaven? Only the gods can live forever. The life of man is short. What he accomplishes is but the wind. Where is the courage that you used to have? Where is the strength? It is Gilgamesh who will venture first into the cedar forest, and you can follow after, crying out, 'Go on, go forward, embrace the danger.' You who have fought with lions and with wolves, you know what danger is. Where is your courage? If I should fall, my fate will be secure. It was Gilgamesh who fought against Huwawa. It is Gilgamesh who will venture into the forest and cut the cedar down and claim the glory, and win the glory. My fame will be secure to all my sons." So the two warriors went to the armor makers, who made them weapons as they watched them work. Axes and swords and adze, weighty and mighty, making each of them ready for the adventure. The people gathered at the seven-bolt gate, and Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk, said, "It is Gilgamesh who will venture into the forest and cut the cedar down and win the glory. My fame will be secure to all my sons. The journey I will undergo has never been undergone before. Give me your blessing. I will return to celebrate the feast of the new year. Uruk will shout in praise. The old men of the city said to him, Gilgamesh the king is a young man. His valiant heart is restless and does not know its danger. Hawawa's mouth is fire. His roar is the roar of the flood water. He breathes and there is death. Helpless is he who enters the cedar forest. Gilgamesh, the king of Uruk, said, It is Gilgamesh who will venture into the forest. The old men said, Though you are the strongest of all, do not put all your trust in your own strength. Let Enkidu, who knows the way to the forest, who knows the wilderness, let him go first. Enkidu, the companion, will not forsake you. Let him go first to find the way through the passes. Let him whose heart delights in water find the hidden wilderness places, where the cold, pure secret of the earth may be disclosed to quench your thirst. Offer to Shamash water. May the god Shamash grant you your desire. Be mindful of your father Lugalbada. Be mindful of his memory. May he protect you. Then Enkidu spoke and said to Gilgamesh, It is your restless heart's desire to venture into the cedar forest. Enkidu the companion will not forsake you. Let Enkidu, who knows the wilderness and knows the way to the cedar forest, let Enkidu go first, to find the way through the passes and find the water, to quench your thirst and offer to the god. Then Gilgamesh and Enkidu together went to the palace. Igalma, to Ninsun the all-knowing, mother of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh told his mother about the adventure, how it is Gilgamesh who would kill Hawawa and cut down the cedar and win the glory. Ninsun listened, grieving to what he said, and then went grieving to her chamber, where she purified herself and put on garments suitable to her task, and sprinkled ritual water on the ground. She mounted the stairs to the palace roof, and at the altar burned and offered offerings of plants, fragrant and sacred, to propitiate the god. Why have you given my son a restless heart? No one has ever undergone the journey that he will undergo. Hawawa's mouth is fire. Oh, Shamash, my son Gilgamesh is going to the forest on your errand, to kill the demon hateful to the sun god. When Shamash sees him setting out on the road, or in the mountain passes, or entering the forest, may Shamash guard and keep him safe, and may the stars, the watchmen of the night, watch over Gilgamesh and the companion. Rimat Ninsun, the mother of Gilgamesh, in the company of the votaries of the temple, spoke and said to Enkidu the companion, placing a sacred pendant about his neck, Though not my son, here I adopt you, son, not to forsake my son in the future danger. Then from the seven-bolt gate the two departed, hearing the warnings and blessings of the city. I know I said I would read up to Tablet 4, but that actually took a lot longer than I thought it would, and since there are 12 tablets, including the the 12th one, which is, as some scholars would say, of questionable value to the story, and it is included in this version of the book. I suppose I'll read 3 tablets at a time, so we're stopping here at Tablet 3, and we will continue next time with Tablet 4. So if you enjoyed what you heard, please leave a like if it suits you. If you think you'll enjoy this on a regular basis, me reading classic literature in an ASMR fashion, then feel free to subscribe. It would make me very happy. Thank you all for coming, and I hope you come visit again.